The machine was beeping, life was going on, and meanwhile, a deal was being made. Not to save a life, but to redistribute millions from public funds. Welcome to the second episode of our podcast series. Today, we'll look at a real case that shook the world of healthcare.
When I hear the word cartel, I picture the mafia, smugglers, maybe drugs, but definitely not hospital equipment and sterile operating rooms.
Reality is often different from how it looks on paper. In 2010, the University Hospital Ostrava announced a tender for the modernization of its cardiac center. Two companies submitted bids, Pura and Hospime. On paper, they were competitors, but in reality, they were a well-coordinated team.
What do you mean? That doesn't necessarily mean they were in cahoots.
In this case, several elements came together to create a picture that was just too suspicious. Both companies submitted almost identical bids. They had the same subcontractor, offered devices from the exact same brand, and their prices were just below the maximum price set by the contracting authority. And what was the outcome? Pura won, and Hospime eventually withdrew its bid. At first glance, it might have looked like a normal course of a competition, but on closer inspection, suspicious patterns started to emerge. And in a competition where fair play is expected, such similarities are hardly a coincidence. One email revealed that the competitors were discussing who would supply which part of the bid and how they would coordinate it. These were details that should never have been shared between competitors. And it was exactly these details that blurred the line between supplier and competitor. And this wasn't the only contract.
And did it continue? Do you think these kinds of arrangements happen with other contracts too? That can't possibly be standard practice.
Actually, yes. And it wasn't an isolated case. It turned out that similar practices appeared in other contracts as well, for example at the First Faculty of Medicine of Charles University or at the Regional Hospital in Liberec. There, the situation repeated itself with various modifications. In some cases, companies would withdraw right before submitting their bids, leaving only one remaining. The one that, according to the agreement, was supposed to win. Other times, they would submit so-called cover bids, offers that were deliberately worse, incomplete, or formally non-compliant, so they couldn't be selected. All these steps, however, were aimed at a single goal, to create the appearance of competition, while at the same time ensuring that the company designated by the cartel agreement would become the supplier. This is the essence of bid rigging, manipulating a public contract at the expense of fair competition and public budgets. In 2011, the authorities intervened. They conducted on-site inspections at the business premises of the companies, securing communications between competitors, business documents, and internal records. These revealed systematic coordination of bids, including emails that showed there had been a prior agreement on the outcome of the contracts. In 2014, the authorities issued a decision. The verdict? It was clearly a cartel that disrupted fair competition. The penalty? The fines for both main parties totaled more than 44 million crowns. The reason was clear. It was a deliberate disruption of fair supplier selection in healthcare.
And did the companies defend themselves?
Yes, of course. They claimed that the similarities were due to technical requirements and having the same subcontractor. They argued that in a field of medical technology, it's common to use similar solutions. But the authority had concrete evidence, like emails in which the companies divided up roles and coordinated their bids in advance. Some documents even contained exact instructions on who would submit what and what the final price would be. In that context, it really couldn't be chalked up to coincidence. It was a deliberate coordination aimed at circumventing competition. The case with the healthcare providers is a warning. Even in a field where lives are at stake, sometimes it's just about the money. In the next episode, we'll show you how to recognize such cartels and how not to end up alone in them.
I definitely won't miss that.
Follow us, because bid rigging is like a shadow on an X-ray. You don't see it right away, but if you know where to look, you'll spot it, and we'll show you how. The truth doesn't stay silent. It just waits for someone to name it.